Lewis Hamilton's 2008 World Championship is supposed to be a fairy tale. But what if Formula One's most sinister conspiracy decided it? This isn't about racing politics. This is about deliberate crash, orchestrated fraud, and a championship Felipe Massa believes was stolen.
The 2008 Formula One World Championship will be decided here, right now. Massa on the left, Trulli on the right. Look out for Hamilton on the pit wall side. It's a cautious getaway from Hamilton. He's running down. Raikkonen is in front of him, and you can see that Alonso has not been able to make ground on him. Vettel isn't going to take any chances.
Welcome to Crashgate, the scandal that potentially rewrote history. With Massa's legal battle gaining momentum, Hamilton faces the unthinkable, becoming a 6-time world champion instead of 7. Singapore 2008 might have been motorsport's greatest heist. 1. Hamilton versus Massa in 2008's epic showdown. The 2008 Formula One season was pure theater. Lewis Hamilton, carrying McLaren's championship hopes after his rookie heartbreak, faced Felipe Massa, Ferrari's Brazilian ace, finally getting his shot at glory. By mid-season, it was a 2-horse race. Hamilton brought raw speed and fearless wheel-to-wheel combat. Massa countered with technical precision and Ferrari's legendary machinery. The points swung back and forth relentlessly, Hamilton leading, then Massa, then Hamilton again. But beneath this spectacular surface, darker forces were quietly in motion. In Singapore, preparing to host its first ever Formula One race, Renault team principal Flavio Briatore and engineering director Pat Simons were secretly hatching a diabolical plan that would manipulate not just one single race result, but potentially the entire championship fight. Nelson Piquet Jr., Renault's struggling second driver, was unknowingly about to become the architect. 2. Singapore, Lap 14, the crash that changed everything. September 14, 2008, Singapore's inaugural night race under the lights. A spectacular debut that would become infamous. Felipe Massa was absolutely flying. After securing a dominant pole position and executing a perfect start, the Ferrari driver was building what looked like a comfortable victory. Championship momentum was decisively swinging his way. Then, on lap 14, disaster struck without warning. Nelson Piquet Jr. suddenly lost complete control coming out of turn 17 and slammed hard into the concrete barriers. The car was completely destroyed. Debris scattered across the track, safety car deployed immediately. What happened next would haunt Formula One for years. The safety car period caught the leaders at the worst possible moment. Massa pitted during the chaos, but Ferrari's crew wasn't ready. Fuel was still flowing when the green light came on. Massa accelerated away, dragging the fuel hose. His race was over, victory stolen. 3. The confession that shook Formula One to its core. For nearly a full year, Nelson Piquet Jr.'s Singapore crash was just another unfortunate racing incident. But in September 2009, after being unceremoniously fired by Renault and facing the devastating end of his Formula One career, Piquet dropped an explosive bombshell that would detonate through the sport's very foundations. He revealed the shocking truth to stunned FIA officials. His Singapore crash wasn't an accident at all. It was completely deliberate, carefully pre-planned, and executed on the direct orders from team principal Flavio Briatore and engineering director Pat Simons. The confession was absolutely devastating in its detail. Piquet described the secret pre-race meeting, where Briatore coldly laid out the scheme, the immense psychological pressure he faced, knowing he was being asked to risk his life for a racing result, and the precise moment he was told to crash. Briatore had specifically chosen turn 17 because it would cause maximum disruption, while keeping Piquet relatively safe from serious injury. The Brazilian was told to make it look natural, like a simple driver error, and to ensure the crash happened after Alonso had completed his early pit stop. Piquet revealed how Briatore threatened his career if he refused, using psychological manipulation and emotional blackmail to ensure compliance. The confession sent shockwaves through the paddock, with veteran journalists calling it the biggest scandal in Formula One history, dwarfing even the notorious Spygate controversy of the previous year. 4. The ripple effect. When we discuss the infamous Crashgate scandal, we often focus primarily on Fernando Alonso's unlikely Singapore victory. But the real victim was Felipe Massa's championship dream. Those 7 absolutely crucial points that Massa lost in Singapore, thanks to the fuel hose incident directly triggered by Piquet's deliberate crash, would prove catastrophically important. The mathematics are brutal in their simplicity. Massa entered the final round trailing by 7 points, the exact margin stolen in Singapore. The 2008 championship went down to the final corner of the final race at Interlagos. Massa did everything perfectly right, winning his home race, with his emotional family watching from the grandstand, and all of Brazil believing their hero had finally claimed his deserved title. For 30 glorious seconds, Felipe Massa was actually world champion. Television cameras captured his father weeping with joy in the garage. Then Lewis Hamilton passed Timo Glock on the very final turn in treacherous wet conditions, secured the crucial 5th place he desperately needed, and stole the championship by a single devastating point. Without Singapore's manipulated result, Massa would have easily scored enough points to become Brazil's first champion since Ayrton Senna. 5. The cover-up. When Piquet's explosive allegations first emerged in 2009, Formula One's immediate response was classic corporate damage control. The FIA investigation moved slowly, carefully, almost reluctantly, as if the sport's governing body desperately hoped this devastating scandal would simply disappear. Too embarrassing and potentially damaging to the sport's carefully maintained credibility. But the overwhelming evidence was undeniable. Phone records, witness testimonies, technical data, race radio communications, absolutely everything corroborated Piquet's detailed account of the conspiracy. Pat Simons eventually confessed publicly, admitting his central role and expressing seemingly genuine regret for his actions. Flavio Briatore maintained his complete innocence much longer, but eventually faced a lifetime ban from Formula One. Renault somehow escaped with surprisingly light punishment, merely a 2-year suspended ban that never actually activated. The most chilling aspect wasn't the conspiracy itself, but how dangerously close Formula One came to never learning. 6. The legal battle that could rewrite history. For 15 agonizing years, Felipe Massa lived with the painful knowledge that his championship dream had been deliberately stolen from him. But knowledge and concrete legal proof are entirely different things. It wasn't until 2023 that Massa discovered the full shocking extent of Formula One's cover-up. Explosive new documents showing that Bernie Ecclestone and the FIA were actually aware of Singapore's manipulation during the 2008 season itself, not after it concluded. The smoking gun came from Ecclestone himself, who admitted in interviews that he knew about the fraud, but chose to keep quiet to protect the sport's reputation. This devastating revelation changed absolutely everything, fundamentally. If the governing body knew about the fraud while the championship was still actively being contested, why wasn't the race result immediately overturned? Why wasn't Massa awarded his rightful points? Armed with this devastating new evidence, Massa launched comprehensive legal action against the FIA, Formula One, and Bernie Ecclestone personally. His determined lawyers argue that the 2008 championship result should be retroactively corrected, that Massa, not Hamilton, should be officially recognized. The Brazilian is seeking not just recognition, but potentially millions in damages for lost prize money, endorsements, and career opportunities that a world championship would have secured. 7. The champion who never cheated, but might lose a title. Lewis Hamilton finds himself trapped in an absolutely impossible position that no driver should ever have to face. He didn't cheat at all, didn't orchestrate Singapore's manipulation in any way, didn't even know about the conspiracy. He simply drove his McLaren to the absolute best of his considerable ability and claimed the championship that the official points table clearly said he'd legitimately earned through racing. Yet his hard-fought legacy now hangs precariously in the balance of a complex legal battle over events completely beyond his control. Hamilton has remained largely silent about Massa's aggressive campaign, a strategic decision that speaks volumes about his situation's incredible complexity. There's simply no good response available to him. Denying the obvious injustice would seem completely heartless when Massa was clearly cheated out of victory, but accepting that 2008 was corrupted would directly validate the strong legal case against his first precious title. 8. The precedent problem. Massa's determined legal case presents Formula One with an existential crisis that goes far beyond just one championship or one driver's personal legacy. If championships can be retroactively stripped based on later revealed fraud evidence, where does it possibly end? The sport has an incredibly long, controversial history of disputed decisions, questionable politics, and borderline manipulation tactics. Opening the dangerous door to historical revision could potentially unleash a devastating flood of legal challenges, completely destabilizing the very foundations of Formula One's official record books. The FIA and Formula One management have consistently argued that race results cannot and should not ever be changed after championships officially conclude. It's supposedly about maintaining sporting finality. Seasons end, champions are crowned, and results must stand regardless of any later discoveries. Yet this rigid position faces a fundamental legal challenge when later revelations expose deliberate fraud, actually known to officials during the championship battle itself, making them potentially complicit. 9. Beyond points and positions, the human cost of corruption. While lawyers debate complex jurisdiction issues and journalists analyze detailed championship mathematics, it's far too easy to forget the absolutely devastating human element of the Crashgate scandal. Felipe Massa didn't just lose a championship, he lost his defining career moment, his rightful place in Formula One history, his once-in-a-lifetime chance at sporting immortality. Massa eventually retired in 2017, having never won a world title, forever remembered as the talented man who came closest to glory without crossing that final line. His father famously collapsed in emotional devastation when Hamilton's last corner pass sealed the championship at Interlagos. The absolutely heartbreaking image of Massa's completely destroyed family became one of Formula One's most poignant moments, except we now know that raw heartbreak was entirely manufactured, completely artificial, the direct product of criminal conspiracy that his loving family couldn't possibly have imagined. The psychological scars run deep, with Massa admitting he still wakes up some nights, thinking about what could have been. Nelson Piquet Jr. paid perhaps the highest personal price, living with guilt and ostracism from the racing community he once called home. 10. The verdict that could change everything. As this script goes to air today, Massa's complex legal battle continues, winding through various international courts worldwide. The ultimate outcome remains completely uncertain, the timeline frustratingly unclear for everyone involved. But the profound questions raised by the Crashgate scandal extend far beyond just one championship or one driver's personal legacy. Can sporting fraud ever truly expire through simple passage of time? Should championships won through deliberate manipulation be allowed to stand simply because too many years have passed? How do we properly balance sporting finality with fundamental justice? What does it mean for Formula One's carefully maintained credibility if its most dramatic championship was actually decided by criminal conspiracy rather than pure racing merit? Felipe Massa believes he was systematically robbed of his rightful place in motorsport history. Lewis Hamilton faces the genuine prospect of losing his breakthrough first title through absolutely no fault of his own. Formula One confronts the terrifying possibility that its most celebrated championship might be built entirely on fraud.